in, but if you need to, you can pick that front axle up off the ground to level the truck out as much as possible. Right? Shocks are held underneath the body here. I think you're pretty familiar with these types of shocks. I see them on your other rig. Okay, we'll go to the back. See where your ground pads are stored for each jack leg.
You want to talk about that, putting them back in?
Yeah, if you see how they're stowed, you got your bottom pad in first with the handle down. That goes in the lower guide. And then the top pad goes in with the handle down in the upper guide. And you capture this black catch on the top of the plate. And then the handles hold everything in. Okay? So that's how you want to stow them. And do not grasp this handle and shove it in there on that last one, or you're going to bust your knuckles. So you're going to impact that bottom pad. So get it in the guides and then push it in with your palms on the outside. I'm sure that'll never happen. You lose a little meat. I'll be first. This is your outrigger control station right here. You'll see this board lit up. These two plate lights will be on, and that outrigger not extended light will be on if you've done everything right in the cab. Okay, you walk back there and you don't see that board lit up, you probably forgot to do something in the cab, like put the park brake on or something like that. To activate the outriggers, you turn this outrigger on-off switch to the on position. When you do that, you're going to hear the high idle come up, and you're going to hear an alarm come on. That high idle will be gone if the water pump is engaged. Okay, no high idle for the aerial if the water pump's engaged. But the alarm will always be there, and the alarm's there to let the person who's running this outrigger operation remember to turn this switch off. We need to turn the outriggers off in order to operate the aerial. We cannot run them both. Okay. In the middle of the panel is an override switch. If I push and hold the momentary switch up, I activate the hydraulic pump. And I can go upstairs now and operate the aerial without any outriggers out or down. Okay? You'd have to open up the door at the front of the control panel by the floor, and that would give you access to the ladder control valve. And then you could operate the aerial manually. Now, when you operate the aerial manually, all the safeties that we have built into the truck are gone, like the collision protection that's built into the truck, so we don't hit the body accidentally. That would all be gone and not working. That's all electronic stuff. When you're operating manually, you are literally making the decisions what's going on with the aerial. So I could override it, and I could raise the ladder straight up and tilt the cab. Okay? Don't be rotating the aerial. You could tip the truck over. But if you wanted to load hose or tilt the cab to check the oil or something like that, and you're on a flat surface, you could do that. You could override it here, open up that door, and have a guy raise it up. All right? So that's aerial override. If the electronic controllers at the turntable or the platform basket, or all 6 of them, weren't working for some reason, you could override it down here and you could use the aerial yet. But just bear in mind that all the safeties are no longer online. If I push and hold the same switch down, that overrides the outrigger. So my hydraulic pump is on again, and it's on the outrigger side of the truck now. When the aerial is raised up out of the ladder bed where it's seated right now, once the aerial is raised up out of the ladder bed, the outriggers are disabled automatically. So if the outriggers are out and down, and you raise the ladder out of the bed, and you turn the outrigger switch on, nothing's going to happen when you try to move any of these outrigger switches, okay? But if you have the ladder out of the bed, and you need to make an outrigger adjustment, you can do so by overriding it. Push this switch down, and then you will be able to make an adjustment. Just remember that you never want to move an outrigger or a jack that has the aerial over the top of it. If you have an aerial on this side of the truck, it would be safe to move these outriggers. They don't have a lot of load on them at that time. But when you move an outrigger over here, it's going to affect the tip of the ladder. Okay, it's going to move it. Just remember that. Generally, you'll be planting an outrigger maybe a little firmer into the ground, and not so much moving the jack up and the beam in, unless you trapped a piece of apparatus here at a fire scene and you needed to get it out. Okay? Any questions on the board so far? All right, outrigger not extended light is on right now, and it'll remain on until beams are fully out and jacks are all on the ground, and that's when that light will go out. And that's the only time that light will go out. If we're ever short jacked with any of the outrigger jack legs, then this light will remain on. This light is here, It's at the turntable, and it's also at the aerial platform. The amber outboard lights that you see are for your outrigger jack legs. When I move a beam out, you have a rapid blinking light there. That's as fast as that light will ever blink, and that's telling me that I have a beam that's not stowed. It's out there in space somewhere, but it is not stowed into the body. If I bring the jack down to the ground, now I get a slow blinking pattern. This indicates that I am short jack with that front right outrigger. So when you see a slow blinking jack light, you're short with that outrigger. Now you can operate the aerial over a short outrigger. We're going to restrict you from reaching too far with the aerial, okay? So the further out the beam is, the further you can reach with the aerial over the top of it. If you can set the truck up with beams all the way out, you want to do that every time you set the truck up. If you need to short jack the aerial, let's short jack the side of the truck that you don't intend to work the aerial on. So you'd have no restrictions in place then. The rated loads for the aerial are 1,000 pounds while in the platform basket while not flowing water. 500 pounds in the basket while flowing water. Okay, so 1,000 pounds dry, 500 pounds wet. When the beam is fully deployed out and the jack is on the ground, that amber light will be solid. So that means you got a full beam out and jack on the ground supporting enough load to operate the aerial. We have to have all 4 jack indicator lights reporting. Otherwise, the aerial will not operate. So it's like you got to have all 4 jacks on the ground. Beams don't have to be all the way out, but you got to have the jacks in contact with the ground in order to operate the aerial. Okay? Down here in the lower left-hand corner, we have a change hydraulic filter light. This is a hydraulic high-pressure filter in the hydraulic system underneath the truck. There's also a return filter at the reservoir, which is right behind the cab. Both of those filters are being sensed by this light. So when that light comes on, it means that those filters need to be serviced. So the light will come on solid, it'll look just like this one up here, and that's an indicator for the mechanics to get after the filters. It does not take the truck out of service. You can go ahead and use it, not a problem. In the cold winter months, if that light blinks on and off a little bit until that oil gets up to operating temperature, that's normal. The emergency backup pump is down here in the lower right-hand corner. This is a momentary switch. And the emergency backup pump is located right underneath our oil reservoir. And it's a limited duty cycle pump. It's intended to get the aerial down out of the sky and get these outriggers up off of the ground so this truck can get to the mechanics because there's something wrong with it, okay? Do not confuse these 2 switches. This override switch in the center, my main hydraulic pump is working. I might have a controller problem, but I got a main hydraulic pump that'll give me hydraulic pressure. If I'm using this one down here, that means my main pump isn't working, or the engine isn't working on this truck, and I can't even turn my PTO for my pump. You got the aerial up in the air, that's the system that you're going to use to get it down out of the sky, okay? The pump manufacturer who makes that pump says you can run their pump for 5 minutes continuously out of a 60-minute cycle. So if you ran it for 5 minutes straight, you'd need to walk away from it for 55 minutes to let it cool back down. So it's limited duty. You can run that pump for 2 minutes and rest it for 2 minutes, and run it for 2 and rest it for 2, and that'll keep the operation going, limp the aerial down, and get the outriggers up off the ground. To operate this system, I need 12-volt battery power. Okay, so master battery switch on, ignition on, aerial power on. Once I have that, I can operate this system. All right, I'm going to turn the engine off, and we'll move an outrigger beam.